One interesting side note to this as well is Meltzer kind of extensively after the first initial write-up of Punk here in the newsletter goes on about the possibility of him joining WWE. Mm-hmm. I would be kind of shocked.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Yes.
But Meltzer put some emphasis on that point. He mentions Triple H's. I have it right here. He says Triple H's whole game right now is about surprise debuts, and Punk would be the biggest possible for him to bring in for an impact. There is a flip side of this, of course, and there's no lock WWE would take him, since when Fox pushed them to take him, they didn't. But they likely underestimated at the time how much he'd been to the fan base as his AEW debut showed. One holdup on the buyout is the non-compete, but that's really a moot point, because even with a 6-month non-compete, Punk wouldn't be ready to return until the non-compete is over. I think he means his injury right there. Yeah. He says, however, the idea of Punk being released this week and being on WWE television just for appearances before he can wrestle would look like a huge coup for WWE over the next few weeks, especially with AEW not nearly as hot when it comes to things like ticket selling and streaming. So first of all, let's go to the buyout situation.
Yeah.
This is expected, right?
Yeah,
this had been expected.
I think that's something we had speculated on quite a while, I think, outside, in terms of a possible outcome of all of this. Now that just doesn't mean that's their only. We don't know, since there's been zero official word on anything. We don't know anything about what's actually going on, what conversation. So Meltzer, it seems like has sources in AEW. So while his information on other topics may not be as sound, AEW stuff, it feels like, all right, like the Young Bucks, we mentioned this before, literally have a move named after him. You know?
Right, yeah.
It seems like he probably has his sources there. Anyways, it's a long roundabout way of saying it's probably highly likely if Punk is to leave, they're not going to just out and out release him.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
It'll probably be a buyout situation, because if it's a buyout situation, it would seem to eliminate the possibility of any sort of legal entanglements after he parts ways with the company.
Yeah, right.
Because that would have to be a negotiated thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one thing that you and I have both noted on specifically yesterday's episode on AEW, the AEW review as well, is that they did show him in the Ring of Honor video package, which indicated to me not necessarily, hey, he's coming back, but maybe that they're okay mentioning him because maybe they wouldn't have had there still been the threat of a lawsuit. So maybe that stuff had been winding down. Also with the Ace deal, being released possibly thing, that was a possibility as well, that like maybe the things are not on hold anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And with reports that there has been more and more communication between AEW and the parties involved, the Elite, that maybe, everything's suspended when there's lawsuits involved. It's like, okay, everything has to go on hold. No moving pieces, because that just complicates things, quite a bit.
Yeah.
As far as him going to WWE, like I understand that, anything I guess is a possibility. But here's, I guess, another. So one case to be made for it would be, not everybody keeps up with this stuff. Not everybody is reading Fightful. Not everybody's watching Going In Raw. Not everybody's watching Wrestle Talk and Cultaholic.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
There is a greater audience out there who definitely, probably fondly still remember CM Punk. Maybe they checked out some of the stuff on AEW. But if you exclusively watch AEW, you don't even know what the hell happened.
Yeah.
You don't know. If you don't give a shit about the backstage stuff in wrestling, you're not going to know what happened to CM Punk. Because they never mentioned him. He was the champion. He won the championship. Let's say you watch that pay-per-view and then you tune into Dynamite. And it's just Tony Khan, who rarely shows up on TV anyways, but because you watch the show. He's the head guy. Oh, well, shit happened? That's weird. Okay, well, let me flip over to basketball or whatever, or football, whatever. So like, I don't know. I think there's a whole world of people. And on top of that, like, I don't know what the crossover between WWE and AEW, the actual audience is. 2 million people watch, 2 million plus watch SmackDown. Around 2 million people are tuning into Raw these days.
About a million watch Dynamite, yeah.
And about 1 million watch Dynamite. So I don't know. I mean, if they want to bring in CM Punk, yeah, I'm not sure I want to see it. But I could see a case to be made for that.
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a case to be made. It's just whether there's mutual interest. Obviously there was at one point a lot of animosity between Punk and WWE. I know Punk was not the largest fan of Triple H, and I don't believe at a certain point Triple H was a huge fan of CM Punk either. Now that was a decade ago, more or less. Things have changed, maybe. I know Meltzer mentioned in the newsletter that Punk is close to Adam Pearce and Paul Heyman. Now, would those relationships be enough to potentially overcome whatever beef, lingering or otherwise, he might have with Triple H? Don't know. From WWE side of things, well, they want someone who's in their mid to late 40s, who's just coming off a situation where, in some circles, seen as having an attitude backstage. Whether that's true or not, if your last lasting image of Punk is the media scrum, it's not exactly a positive one, In the last year, he's had 2 significant injuries, and there's already a history of issues between himself and management at WWE. I don't know if WWE would want to sign him to a huge money deal.
Well, here's the thing about that, though, is that WWE would, in this situation, you would think they'd have all the leverage. They don't need him. And he has nowhere else to go. I mean, I do think the one place, look, he's got 2 other options.
Impact.
He could chase Bobby Fish and go to Impact.
Yeah.
Where's the lie? They have a built-in feud. Fish kicked out of a GTS. Punk wants to get back at that. I am so joking right now. I know I'm acting like I'm not, but I am.
Darn.
New Japan.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about New Japan. I think that Punk's behavior in the media scrum is more indicative of what he was allowed to do. If you give a person like that how do you put this? I don't think New Japan would put up with his shit, and I get the feeling he would know that. And so I kind of feel like he probably wouldn't be a problem there. You know what I mean? Like if with Tony Khan seemingly just gave him the company. He was like, this guy can do anything and everything he wants.
Yeah.
And Punk did it. Yeah. Punk did it. He went up there, and anybody who had a grievance with him, he did it. Mm-hmm. He aired his grievances at that media scrum because he felt like he was bulletproof. Well, in New Japan, I don't think he would be. I think that they'd probably be like, hey, you want to come in? If they would want him. And New Japan has shown that they'll bring people in who don't exactly have the best reputation. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's a possibility if he wanted to. I think they probably would.
That's a huge if at this juncture. I mean, who knows? In
the style would be a huge problem because he's old.
It would be. He's old, and he's coming off 2 pretty significant injuries in the last year. And in 6 months, when he's in theory healed from the triceps injury, maybe he after this experience, who knows if he even want to professionally wrestle anymore. We just don't know.
You're right, but a dude needs money. I mean, that's
well, I mean, he's getting a buyout from AEW at a significant percentage of what his contract was.
Yeah, and multiple wrestlers have said that know him have said he's pretty frugal with his money. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe that'll just be his retirement. I don't know.
I mean, we'll get to this Jericho story in a little bit. If Punk was making more than Jericho was in Jericho's first deal, Punk was making good money.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Yeah, I would
really
imagine
good money.
So I mean, I don't know. As far as WWE is concerned, if it's, I'll put it this way: if Punk wants to continue to wrestle, I think there's probably a low risk situation for WWE. If he wants to wrestle, if they're like, hey, do you want to come back and try this out with a bunch of incentive based escalators in his contract and stuff?
Yeah. Low downside, bunch of incentives. Yeah.
I think that's a possibility. I mean, yeah, he burnt it down, but no more or less than, half the other people that did in the past.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I don't know. Would he look like a big hypocrite? Probably, but money talks, dude. I don't know.